Well, thank you, those of you who are listening and reported and the sound on. We're here at IRC, and you can't see much. I thought you'd be able to see more. Maybe at the end of this I can zoom the camera out and you can see the meditation hall today is being been claimed for a training we're doing, so it doesn't look like exactly like a meditation hall. But there's a couple of people here meditating with us in person, which is unusual for me when I'm doing this YouTube teaching, so I'm very happy. So welcome, everyone. And so this week, in the morning, I've been offering these little snippets of sayings that you can use in your meditation practice. And sometimes we can say yes as a way of enhancing our awareness, just be present for what's happening. Sometimes there's a wonderful no to what's happening, no to being distracted, that puts us into the present moment. Yesterday I talked about the little saying, no comment, just to be aware of what's there without adding any comments. That's not all, not necessarily appropriate in everyday life, but in meditation there's something very profound about just not getting involved, not judging, not talking about what's happening in your experience, but allowing everything that arises in meditation just be there without any comment. And so today the culmination of these four little mantras that I offered is could be another one, but it's what they're all leading to. And mentioned on Tuesday a little bit this way as well. And that is the word know, that's spelled K-N-O-W. That all the others were meant to lead us to a very radical, simple state that simply knows what's happening as it's being known. And the yes, it can be yes to what arises, as long as it is known. Almost like we can get out of our own way in the knowing. There's something very profound. It's kind of like one of those kids' toys, a Jack in the Box, where you take the lid off and the Jack jumps up, springs out. It's finally released its tension because it has space. There's something about releasing tension that allows whatever needs to unfold. And so today, know, K-N-O-W, just know. Maybe that could be the two words, just know. Just know what's happening. Keep it that simple. What's happening? Just know it. And if it's not obvious how you'd recognize it or label it, or it's okay to just know it as something. Something is being known, or confusion is known. Not knowing is known. And so in the back of the meditation practice, as we settle in on mindfulness of breathing and being here, to stay close to just knowing. So assuming a meditation posture, and there is a kind of knowing that happens through the body, embodied knowing, or the body not just feeling and sensing, but the body recognizing. A posture, a way of composing the body that feels right, that feels appropriate for whatever conditions we have in our life. And gently closing the eyes. And there is a kind of knowing in how the body experiences breathing. It's not commentary, it's not judgment, but there's a knowing that the body has of a breathing that's pleasant or unpleasant, comfortable or uncomfortable. A breathing which is tense, with resistance or holding, or recognizing a breathing with its fluid, breathing easily. With no judgment, no comment, just knowing. Knowing what breathing knows, what breathing feels. The body feels as knows, recognizes as you breathe. And then as you exhale, to relax, let go, settle in. the practice of just knowing. It's knowing what is obvious without any need to search or figure out or analyze. And sometimes that means knowing you don't know, or knowing just that something is happening, or confusion or chaos. Keeping the knowing radically simple. Just know. And then as we come to the end of this sitting, I would like to evoke a little truism or a little aphorism that I've learned from the field of psychotherapy, that adults need to be heard, children need to be seen, and the combination of those for me is people need to be known, and that there's something about seeing, hearing, knowing that can carry love, can carry care, respect, appreciation, that we can know, we can offer our capacity to know someone else, and that knowing comes along with these wonderful capacities we have to see with love, see with care, with kindness. And may it be that this practice that we do supports us not just to be mindful in the world, but supports us so that our mindfulness is carried along with kindness, with goodwill, any one of the social emotions that where we care for each other, we appreciate each other. May we know others so they feel valued, appreciated. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. So thank you all very much. And I saw there were some comments about a high-pitched buzzing sound, and I'm going to turn off what I think is the input for the sound while I drink some water, and maybe some of you can tell me if that buzzing sound stops. So I see these comments that the sound has stopped, the hissing has stopped, but now that I've turned the mic on again, is it better? Is it back? Also, I see that the video camera goes a couple of times goes out of focus, and I wonder if the camera we have here at the IRC is very sensitive to the tuning in, zeroing in on someone, and then if they move, maybe it goes out of focus a little bit. I've never seen this before, but So the buzzing stopped before your concluding remarks. It's already stopped. Very curious. I'm going to try one thing and see if I can get the sound to come back. So there. I replicated something that I took apart before when I saw the sound. So I think I have to wait a little bit here because it takes about 15-20 seconds for this to what I do here to be broadcast on YouTube and then to get messages. So sound was fixed in the middle of meditation. The buzzing is back. Okay. And now it should be completely gone. So I think what the problem was is I had two electrical devices, a electric clock on top of the laptop and also the remote control for the camera on the wall over there. And maybe they were somehow the crickets. So then now it's gone again. Yeah, that's what it is. It's I can't have those two things sitting on my computer. It somehow has enough electrical interference. So that was a little bit of a different thing. So here I am at IRC, very happy to be here with two of the former or present resident volunteers who are sitting here with us, and I'm very happy to be here. And this is a concluding now talk on the themes from this ancient Buddhist text. As I keep saying, some scholars believe it's the oldest teaching in Buddhism, the Buddha's first teachings perhaps. And in the appendix of the book, I go into some of the reasons people think this and the evidence for that. And that there are four themes that I've selected out of this. And it's perhaps these themes are things that are subjective to me, especially this last one we're going to do today. So the first one is it's really clear in the text. It's repeated over and over again. This idea of not clinging to any kind of views and not holding some religious views as being better than others or more superior or ultimate. Just not getting involved in that comparison at all, and not depending on any religious doctrine, beliefs, but rather depending on what we can know and see directly for ourselves. And in doing so, the second theme, not clinging to sensual desires, because we know and see the downside of that. We know and see for ourselves that how we're limited by the attachment to sensual desires. So again, it's not because someone tells us, or there's a rule, that you should let go of sensual desires, but it's to really have understood for oneself, seen and known for oneself, that sensual desires, being caught in them, is not beneficial, and it's actually better not to be caught in them. So it's not a doctrine here that is presenting authority, like this is what you should do. It's a teaching about developing your own capacity to know and see for yourself. And those two verbs, knowing and seeing, are the most common kind of description of the practice that is in this text. And then the third theme was the descriptions of the sage. And those descriptions, like for example of not clinging to anything, not craving to anything, might seem kind of pretty far advanced, pretty impossible to do. However, it is naturalistic. It is something humanistic. We can understand that. We can understand that we have craving, and we can understand those times when they're not there. And it's not tied to some kind of supernatural belief, something that some ultimate state of of mind, altered state of consciousness. Again, it's dependent on what can be seen and known for oneself, even though it might seem pretty distant to have no craving or clinging at all. And then the last theme, the fourth one, is training, cultivating, developing oneself. And the remarkable thing about this is that in this text, the it isn't so much that training is a training to get anywhere. There is in a way, I'll explain in a minute, but it's not so much about getting somewhere, but it is a training to be the goal. So what I mean by this is that if the goal is non-craving, then the training to that goal is to stop craving, maybe in small pieces, gradually over time, so that the non-craving grows and develops until the full non-craving is experienced. So we're actually practicing the whole goal that we're going towards each moment. If the goal is to be peaceful, to have a deep, abiding sense of peace in our hearts, and that the way to train for that is to begin finding peace here, knowing peace here, letting go into peace here. And so there's not a real sharp distinction between the training and the goal of the training. It's like exercising to become stronger. You become stronger by doing the things that make you strong. And so if you need to become a strong walker, so you can walk well, you begin walking maybe. And so walking is the way to become a good walker. So the idea that the goal is not such a distant one this way. It's not like we have to try for years to kind of develop high levels of concentration or really sharp mindfulness or go into deep states of meditation. Those can all happen, but and they might have their role at times. But here in this text, the idea is to find the goal in the means, to practice the goal until the goal becomes perfected in a sense. And so not clinging to views and beliefs. Maybe it's hard to do that, but then we practice that the best we can. And how do we practice this? Through this knowing and seeing. We know and see as we practice, as we train, as we engage in our life. We can know and feel, oh, this does not feel peaceful. This feels like a lot of clinging here going on. And so it's in that direct knowing of the downside of clinging, of agitation, that we understand the value of not continuing that which leads to that, more of that. So here the sage, the wise one, has all the information they need for doing this practice in themselves through their own abilities to know and see. The Book of Eights focuses on fundamental personal and psychological transformations for which individuals are personally responsible. Quote, train fully in your own release. Train fully in your own liberation. And then elsewhere it says, a monastic should not seek peace from others. The text provides no help from gods or external forces. To many modern readers, this will be less revolutionary message than it probably was in the Buddha's time. In focusing on cultivating behaviors and virtues, the Book of Eights rarely mentions specific techniques or practices. Stated differently, the text doesn't emphasize religious practices that can be seen as steps towards attaining the qualities of an ideal person. Furthermore, it explicitly and provocatively says that religious observances and practices in themselves are not adequate for becoming a person at peace. Rather, it encourages people to simply behave like an ideal sage. not to pretend, not to act it out, but to, in the knowing and seeing, to understand how in the moment we can act like a sage without clinging, even if the clinging is close by or keeps reappearing. So I'll read a couple of those who say virtue is ultimate dedicate themselves to purity and religious observances. Only by training in this will there be purity, they say. Claiming to be skillful, they are faced with further becoming, further building up themselves in attachment. One who falls away from virtue and observances trembles at having failed at the task and longs for purity, as a poor, far-off traveler longs for home. But whoever has let go of all virtuous conduct and observances, as well as all actions blamable and blameless, and who has no wishes for purity or impurity, lives without indulging, not even taking up peace. That's a radical message. So you don't find the peace that the Buddha is looking for through virtuous conduct, through practices, religious practices, but also not without them. You don't find it by being blameless in your actions, but you also don't find it by doing things which are blamable. Neither are the way there. This is not a teaching to just be free to do whatever you want, independent of whether you harm others or not. But it's not to find your peace in all those things. There's another possibility. And don't even take up peace. Don't hold on to it. Don't make it. There's something else. And then also problematic says, whoever depends on austerities wails for purity, not free from craving for becoming and not becoming. Longing comes from wanting, and with planning there is fear. But with no death and rebirth as a concern, how could one fear? What could one long for? Someone asked the Buddha, that doctrine some say that is best, others say is inferior. As they all claim to be experts, which statement is true? Buddha says, they say their own doctrine is perfect. They say the doctrine of others is inferior. Quarreling so they dispute, everyone saying their own opinion is true. But the true Brahmin are not led by others when considering doctrines believed. They have therefore gone beyond disputes. Indeed, they see none of these doctrines as the best. They who are entrenched in teachings, who revere preconceived views and are not easy to train, whatever they depend on, they say, is beautiful, is purity, is where they see truth. However, the true sages don't make things up. They don't follow religious views, doctrine, or bind themselves to knowledge. Knowing the many commonplace opinions, they are equanimous, thinking, this is what others hold on to. Free of worldly ties, sages here don't follow any faction in a dispute. Peaceful among those not at peace, equanimous thinking that is what others hold on to. They don't hold on to anything. Having given up old attachments without forming new ones, they neither pursue desires nor get entrenched in doctrines. Free from viewpoints, not clinging to the world, wise ones have no self-reproach. They are not an enemy to any doctrine, not forming opinions, not closed down, and not desirous. They are sages, wise ones, who have laid down their burden. So that's chapter 13 in this book, The Buddha Before Buddhism. So this has been an important book for me. I spent about 20 years on and off translating. I first started translating it when I was in graduate school doing Buddhist studies. I did it as I had some extra time during a summer break. And I was so fascinated by this book that just for my own sake, to understand it better, I started translating it and did a few of the chapters and then came back to it over time and spent a lot of time reflecting on it. I read a wonderful book by a scholar named Grace Burford. It was her doctoral dissertation on this book, and that made a big impact on me and added to my love of this particular text. And now I share it with you. So thank you very much for being part of this week, and that I could share something that's been valuable for me and in general, doing this YouTube for these almost 5 years now, and I feel very fortunate to be able to share something that's so dear and deeply loved by me, and I hope that it supports you in being a sage, supports you in relying on what you can know and see directly for yourself, without recourse to holding on to religious beliefs, including Buddhist ones, including what I teach. So thank you very much.